All right, so we're going to create a few more construction lines here. And so the first one will just be sort of down the center here. So, we want to kind of have a center just as reference down the center of the face. So, nobody's face is perfectly symmetrical. And if you look at a lot of actors like Harrison Ford or Robert Pattinson, that kind of symmetry really breaks around the nose area and things like that. But we're going to look at mostly just as this as, since we're doing more of a generic mugshot, if you will, then we're going to look at just a straight on view of generic. So generic characters, you've seen them in video games and things like that. Everybody has sort of these options to create custom characters, and those are based on similar like proportions. And of course, it's what really varies from person to person that makes it very interesting. So we're going to make a line that's sort of halfway between the bottom of the chin and here. So maybe something more like that. I made it a little bit too high, but this is going to be the bottom of the lower lip. So we have room for the chin here, we have room for the mouth, and then the nose. So then the next construction line or construction object we're going to put is sort of these sort of shapes around the temple. So we're going to draw these shapes here that represent the temple. So if you've ever seen a human skull, you have sort of these temple shapes, and the head sort of slopes forward here, and you have these temple shapes. So once we get all these kind of proportions in, and then we can go into details. And then if you look at the eyes too, so the eyes are going to be sort of start here and go lower down here. So the eye sockets really we're thinking about, or orbits really, think of them as orbits, right? So they're these sort of, and I'm going to adjust my center line here because it's not perfectly center. And again, nothing's perfectly center, but with the human face. But we're just kind of going to establish these guidelines to help you draw really and understand some of the basic proportions, and then you can vary them. And then you're always going to vary these, right, from person to person. So when you think about the eyes, or the eye socket, the eyes are really, the eyeball itself is just a ball, and then the eyelid around it, right, makes that other shape. So you want to kind of look at the eyes as circles, and then you can kind of build up the other part. And then you have your nose here, so just the tip of the nose here, and that's going to also vary. I'm just starting with a circle, and some people's noses have more of a square tip, or less of a circle, but we're always going to kind of start with organic shapes. It's easier just to start with this with these proportions here. So I'm just kind of starting to sweep around here and clean up these things. So the nose width is going to be different from person to person. We're going to look at some other features here too, like the center of the eye lines are going to be important. So when we have the center of the eye lines, we're going to draw those down here, right? And so those are going to become sort of the width of the mouth. So the width of the mouth kind of lines up with the center of the eyeballs. So, once we get all these kind of proportions worked out, really set up to really draw the face, we have sort of an android looking face right now because it's very much symmetrical and, made of these different geometric shapes, but we'll kind of move on and make it look a little bit more organic.